I think Finfluencers, we are actually more self-regulated.
Yes.
Right? I have not seen a single influencer that has recommended a non-MAS approved trading app. But I've seen plenty of lifestyle influencers promoting certain apps that I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole.
And I know how much they're being paid, 5 digits.
Okay, maybe I wouldn't touch with a 5-foot pole.
Welcome back to Chills with TFC. I'm your host Reggie, aka your Chief Financial Coconut, and I'm John with Don SG Budget Babe. You know, on my show. This is my show,
Yeah,
right?
your show.
How does it feel being
Wise
on my
and Shine
show?
is my show.
Yes, it's true. Wise and Shine is your show. Yeah. So how does it feel coming onto my show, the sister show? You say?
Your chair not as
It's like-
comfortable
it's
as
like-
mine.
Okay lah. But yes, today is an important episode, right? Because recently there's a saga, okay, about this finfluencer thing, right? Finfluencer should be regulated. Is that the saga? That's what happened, right? Some headline along these lines because one of the Minister of State says something lah. So today will be the last episode of Chapter 1, right? Where we, the finfluencers, come together to share with you our point of view and how we recount the incident. How it affected us. So it's a bit of a fun episode, right? If you have anything you want to say, you can put in the comment section. We try to react to you. So you want to introduce yourself for our audience that somehow still don't know you?
Hi, my name is Dave. I'm the financial blogger, Minimalist in the City. I'm also an independent financial advisor. Yeah.
Okay. So from that point of view, you're regulated.
Yes.
Right, not the blog part. It's
Yes.
the advisory side of things.
Advisory
okay?
side,
So this
yes,
is an
correct.
important discussion later also.
Yes.
Yes, and Seth, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Seth from Satisfy Personal Finance on YouTube, TikTok,
Everywhere
website,
lah. Yeah,
everywhere
His
lah.
website is
Now
quite
you have to
good.
do
Yes,
everything.
yes.
Yeah, currently also a representative of an IFA or fee-only firm lah.
Yes, but essentially you are coming in today more from the finfluencer point of view, right? So we're representing ourselves to recount the incident, what happened, and share our point of view of the whole thing, right? So maybe for a start, right, anybody want to take a jab at what actually happened, right? Because I think for a lot of listeners, today is a fun episode, okay? So don't expect any wisdom out of today's episode, okay? So it's more of a recounting the story and then sharing our perspective of where do we sit in the ecosystem, how do we think this can be better done, and the whole shenanigan, right? So if the ministers or all that would love to react to us, great. We welcome you on the show and then we can have a further discussion.
Come.
But yes, please come. But before that, maybe if you all want to recount the incident, what happened from your point of view, Seth has a story or Don
I
also
can
has a
start.
story.
I
Yes.
mean, Seth and I are in chats and we have each other's numbers and all,
They-
so
they-
right.
they-
And
they talk on the
literally, like was it evening, right? Because the news dropped close to 4-5 p.m. I think. And I haven't even knocked off work, and suddenly the phone was buzzing non-stop. And I'm like, okay, something happened. I don't know what, but I hear the sound. I know got something already. And one of the many buzzers was our own internal friends and influencers who was like, hey, have you all seen this? And then some
Kelvin,
others were from friends and readers saying like,
Kelvin
hey,
had angry, Kelvin.
hey, why Kelvin not here?
Kelvin
Join the
very
here non-regulated
non-regulated.
one.
Yeah. This list very long. Can got it behind.
Yeah, this list never ending. That list shorter, right? And then it's just suddenly so much work and things to reply to. And clients were then asking, where's your license? So of course, when these kind of things drop with no warning some more, not like anyone even interviewed us to say this was coming. We suddenly had to just scramble around and then go and read, understand the news, figure out how do we respond. Before we respond, need to, strategize within our own influencer network also, whether or
We're
not.
forming a union at the end of
Yeah,
the
influencer union.
Forming a union.
F you. Stealing Steph's jokes from before this episode started.
Relax. Yeah.
Yeah, so then we had to just suddenly scramble around, discuss strategies, and then I think the first to go out was Timothy. Right, Timothy from Dollars and Cents published the first public response as an influencer, and he chose to do it on his LinkedIn. And then for me, I didn't want to say anything until I had a clearer picture. And then after that, I went out clarifying things on Instagram. Then all the media started knocking on our doors, asking, for stuff, and some we replied, some we didn't. So yeah.
Just to line up the story a bit, it kind of all started with the Minister of State's Parliament reply, right? No,
It
didn't.
started with the news article that covered that.
No. Okay, so but the platform, the basis of the news article is the Minister of State's response, right? And to be fair, if you want to drag it even further away, actually the Malaysian government came out with some regulation, and also Singapore and Malaysia, there's always reference, right? So I believe that also led to this discussion of like, then Singapore here, influencer, how is it going to be like? So the Minister of State put out a pretty vanilla, statement about like, if you're not regulated, you shouldn't be giving financial advice, right? And then I think some of the other member of parliament also probed further, right? So how many of these complaints were posed to Finfluencers, right? And then he was like less than 5 a year or something, right? So it's very marginal, nothing much. But then the whole thing blew up because of who? Who is this person? Who is this reporter?
My name.
Name
You
dropper.
search. So I think it really started from the Straits Times article, and I think that was the one that caused a lot of misunderstanding. I actually wrote to the journalist called Priska Ang from the Straits Times, and after I got clarification from MAS themselves that influencers do not need to be regulated, I pointed out that her headline is very misleading. But this journalist don't want to reply me.
What's her headline? Yeah, find her headline.
The headline was financial influencers must be licensed and regulated if they provide advice. Alvin Tan. But that is the headline. So if you read the headline, there's so many different interpretations. A lot of people just read financial influencers must be licensed and regulated. Right?
Yeah.
Because what is advice? And what's the if they provide advice? So when is it advice and when is it not? You don't read until and how many people actually click on the article to see what you pointed out, which is the number of complaints was so little and no action. They said while some action were taken against financial advisors, right? None of them were influencers. None. So why do we even have this topic to talk about?
Okay, Friska Ang, we welcome you. Okay.
Why never
this
reply
become-
my
And we
email?
will screenshot everything before this become a like a lawsuit. We are ready. Just
My view
yeah,
is
share
that
your
it's
point of view.
not a saga, it's a
Yeah, yeah.
storm in the teacup.
Yeah.
Right? Because my view is that, okay, an MP raised the question about whether influencers are regulated, right? And then Minister of State just reiterated what is the current law, which is if you want to give financial advice, you need to be licensed. Right? He did not say that influencers need to be licensed, right? It's
Yes.
a totally different meaning. And that was my read. Actually, I shared in the group chat also. I think that is my read of the events. And then after that, MAS actually responded and they clarified, right? If you're giving general advice online, it is not considered financial advice. It needs to be personalized, then it's financial advice. So yeah, it's actually nothing. There's no new regulation, unlike what I think the mainstream media tried to.
Because
Make it
spin-
seem.
I think they misunderstood and then they made it seem like it
So
was
they
a
must be
new
held
thing.
responsible for causing that misunderstanding.
No, I texted some of the MAS people, right? So I mean, this one cannot name. So I texted some of the MAS people, and they say no new law, ma. Right? This is old law. So I know, but what's going on? Then I think at that point in time, they also didn't know what to do, right? Because as much as we were lost, they were also lost. What the media does not, report to them and say, hey, this headline cannot. No, so it's not like they were cleared through MAS, right? So the media wrote, mainstream media wrote whatever that, specifically the Straits Times wrote whatever they want to write. And then this whole thing happened. Then even the regulators were a bit like caught off guard. And that's my point of view. Yeah.
Exactly. And I also wanted to just add that, when this whole thing dropped, you think about it, right? A lot of people will freak out because the clients who engage influencers will also misunderstand, and that's where we were complaining. Suddenly, so many clients come and knock
You
on
were
our
complaining,
doors.
I wasn't. I mean, I'm advantaged by this misunderstanding because clients come and ask me, hey, are you licensed? I'm like, yeah.
And your answer is just yes, shut up.
It's a Uno reverse situation, because in the past, I actually had 2 brands who did not want to work with me because I was a licensed FA. They specifically cannot work with licensed FA according to their company's policies. So when this news dropped, right, actually it's like a
benefit for you, lah.
yeah, Uno reverse, right? Because now you're panicking, you're trying to assure your clients, right? But for me, I'm like, yeah, I'm licensed. So
And I think it was hard because when we had the same read, right? There's no new change. And if that was, then surely MAS would have informed us. It's not like they don't have our contact. If, let's say, Budget Babe did something wrong, or Calvin Learns Investing or Satisfy put out something that they're not happy with and deems it as financial advice, then they can write to us to put us in our place, right? But they didn't. I mean, I've been running for over 10 years. Nothing has ever happened. I haven't even been caught. And recently there was this in-person event where someone name dropped us in front of Lawrence Wong. And Lawrence Wong said, if you believe that these people have done or anyone have done anything wrong, just let us know. We'll invite them to a kopi session. I remember his word.
Wow.
We haven't even had a single kopi session, right? And I was trying to explain to the clients, but again, it's always your word, his word, her word. And I was explaining that there's no change in the rules. We have not gotten anything from MAS. In fact, if you study the regulations, where do we even fit in? How does a influencer even go about getting a license? You need to be with an agency. There's certain criteria and all. We don't fit into any of that criteria. So if today MAS now tells me, hey, there's a new license that we will come up for individuals like Budget Babe, Calvin Learns Investing and Work Man and all these people, and you have to apply for this category of license, sure, okay, then we'll have to suck thumb and do
Yeah,
it.
but better
But don't
engage
have-
us first, right?
Yeah.
Because you like to engage the people when you do regulation, right? Please engage us if you want to regulate. I'm not against regulation, but there needs to be a discussion.
Yeah, exactly. We're not
around
against
this. Yeah,
regulation, but I think the big hoo-ha here is that the reporters or the news basically blew up a storm in a teacup. It was nothing really. They gave their own interpretation, caused a lot of panic in the scene, caused a lot of extra work overnight for us, influencers who were not regulated. Good, easier for him, harder for us. And yeah, it's just, who paid me for all the hours, yeah?
Yeah. But Dave, anything you sound like you're not affected by this. Nobody disturb you at
Because
all.
he regulated.
No, not really. But then, okay, I know I'm regulated, but then at the same time, I have a different perspective.
Okay.
Because I came from a banking background. Before I become IFA, I was a banking. So, of course, we are subjected to a lot of regulation, compliance. Okay, understandably so. My personal take is I don't think influencers should be like fully regulated or
That means must
whatever.
partially regulated.
Because I think the things they do, the line isn't very clear. It's like what is considered as financial advice. Even for us IFA, right, we also got to differentiate between planning advice and standard advice. So it's like planning advice is like the person give you all the information so you can make a right assessment before you do out a plan. But standard advice is basically they just come here for the
Save
product.
more lor, do
Yeah.
that.
So actually, a lot of things is still very grey. So I myself, as a so-called influencer, in terms of the minimalism and
You are
so
what, yeah.
in the past I used to
Although you're in your minimalist corner lah.
Yeah. But
it's-
I do have a lot of like sponsors who want to come
it's true,
here
it's true,
to
you
promote
have.
certain platforms, all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
But then I never really went through that because as you can see from my website, I don't really have a lot of advertisement. But then like people who conduct like minimalism course and the course that I actually went through, that kind of thing I went through, so I have a personal experience. So I provide opinion and something like a discount code or something like that. I think that would be fair enough. I mean, if I really did attend the course and then I have some feedbacks and then people actually join and then you get a referral fee or something like that. Yeah, because there's a lot of sponsors, platform to come to me, but then I never use their platform. Just throw this conversation open lah.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
because I'm just talking about my point of view lah.
I love how you make it so much more yin yang, like more.
No.
It's a
think
better
it's always-
discussion than like, what I tell you, this person.
You need someone colorful like me
yes,
here.
yes. And then
right?
so that's such a
I think it's about
elevated.
creating the open conversation, right? So that we can improve it as an industry or as even financial advisor.
Yeah.
So I think that influencers, there's a lack of regulation because the main thing about influencer and even IFA, right? We also have conflict of interest. The number one thing that comes out of our mind is always conflict of interest. So how do you reduce the conflict of interest? I hear there's a lot of ways to do it, but then you cannot totally eradicate conflict of interest. I don't think that's a best way to do it. So how do you bring this like conflict of interest to the minimum? So I think this is a discussion that everyone could have because it's a very blur line. Like, am I promoting something that kind of like example like stop take or stop picks, right? If I own certain thing, if I promote that stock, will it be like conflict of interest?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Because for us, we got to declare it.
Yeah.
Even when I was in banking, I got to declare any transaction or whatever.
Yeah.
But then I don't think because influencer is an individual, right? So it shouldn't be regulated like an organization. You know, it's very different. So this is just my personal point of view.
Yeah. And there's across the board, right? Like even you just said there's a stock side.
Oh yeah,
There's like a
there's
whole
so many things.
spectrum, different people
yeah.
talking about different things.
Yeah,
It's a different world already, right?
Then I think the other one is the grey part is probably the ethical side of it. So what is considered ethical? What is considered ethical?
Yeah.
Yeah. So banking, we got to receive all this training on ethics. Then IFA, we have another set. As influencer, actually we don't know what is the line between like ethical or not ethical.
Yeah.
So I think it's good to like kind of like bring some light into what is considered ethical. Yeah.
Mm.
I think the biggest question also is what do you define exactly as advice?
Okay,
Yeah,
yes.
Right.
yeah.
So before we go there, right, I want to sum up the front part of the story
Okay.
first. So she had a lot of clients
Work
coming in,
dump
right?
on
Yes,
me
a
overnight.
lot of things. Do you get a lot of stuff or no?
I just say yes.
Yeah.
His
Right.
answer is
So
yes.
yes, yes.
I'm not inconvenienced by this.
Yeah.
That's why he's so calm, he's so chill, right? Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
share my side of the story. So I also had some questions from clients coming in, right? My reply very cute. So I'm a podcast. You are the one that say everything. then they gone already. Right? Because
Why you never teach me to come back?
because I'm just a host, right? Yes, I create a show that is revolving around personal finance, career, business, event, all these type of things, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't say most of the things. In fact, I always relay back to you. So the professional was the one that said it. So actually, I didn't have a lot of sponsors, kind of like behind my back. It's like, hey, some of the agency people did ask, but very quickly they get the idea, right? So that's Thank you. So that out of the way, we move a little bit into the whole like, okay,
What is advice?
what is advice? What kind of regulation do we think is fair? Then we talk a little bit about should influencer be regulated. So that's a later part, okay?
Then why isn't Financial Times regulated? Why isn't Business Times regulated?
Correct, lor. Why?
They also have influencers,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Even they bigger, they have
Yeah.
influencer organization.
It's true.
Right.
And then it also opens another can of worms where finance brands sponsoring influencers, like lifestyle influencers, should that be regulated? Because more bullshit come out from that. Right? That's my point of view. More bullshit come out from lifestyle influencer about like you should do this and that. I look at the script, that brand also sent me the same script. I also know what, right? It's like
Yeah, and I think this is
rubbish.
the difference, right? Which is where we, not that we're elitist, but
Yeah.
we honestly know how to reject shitty scripts.
Yeah.
And we have seen a lot of these briefs where we're like, you want me to say this? I'm so sorry, I cannot. You either let me change it and you say yes to what we want to say, or we walk away from the deal, because honestly, we don't need this money. Our reputation matters more to us than this pittance that you're paying us, right? But you need to know enough to be able to say
Of
that.
course, but that is our value proposition to our audience,
Correct.
ma.
But a lot
Right?
of times, the advertising dollars also goes to people who don't know enough to say no to these things. And that's why you have so many problematic finance ads out there. Then if you really want to regulate, you should be regulating those that put out problematic things first, right?
Yes. But what just word of caution to everyone. I think the TFC audience is smart lah. But for everyone else that this video reaches, right, you don't trust a makeup person about finance, right? You don't go and trust someone that go around do travel and food about finance. Okay, full stop. Use some brains, huh?
Can I also add that I hope amongst this discussion, right, we also don't overlook the fact that just because someone is regulated, doesn't mean that they will automatically give good advice, right? Because the law can legislate certain things about like scams, outright scams they can outlaw, right? But it doesn't, from my opinion, right, being in this industry for since 2009, more than a decade now, right? It doesn't prevent people from giving absolutely bad advice, right? How many times have we seen bank RMs and even commission agents selling product for the sake of selling product, reaching their targets, getting a commission? Right, so just because you're regulated or not regulated, it does not really, I think, have an impact on the overall outcomes. Like, your aunt can give you the best advice as someone unregulated, right? Well, you can go to a bank and get missold all kind of products.
Yeah, today my reader just told me her agent got her to stick to an ILP which she wanted to cancel. Then I asked why you want to cancel. And then she said, the rate of return only 0.7. I'm like, what kind of shitty ILP is that? 0.7% per annum. You put in the team.
Hey, got return, actually not too bad.
Positive, not bad.
0.79% on the ILP, and the agent asked her to stick with it when she wanted to cancel. I'm like, wow, I got nothing to say, man. But you see, there's advice like that.
Yeah.
That's why I say I sent her my link. How much
Commission.
insurance commissions do agents make? Then I say you go and draw your own conclusion.
Yeah.
But and at the same time, I've also met a lot of licensed agents who are very upfront and say, I don't think this ILP is great for you. Yeah, the fees are very high. Are you prepared to pay these fees? And the returns, this is the projected. This was last year, but last year the S&P did well. Doesn't mean this year and every year will do well. You need to know the risk and pros and cons, and then you decide. So I have seen agents who actually share that. And I've also met agents who conveniently leave it out because they don't want to educate the client about that because it's not in their best interest. There's all sorts of spectrum like what Seth says. So then why they regulate means they better, man. So you take financial advice from them and disregard the influencers?
Yeah. And there's a lot of products that come through our doors that I look at it, I was like, this one cannot. You know, like I cannot talk about this. This does not work, right? So actually, if you think about it, one of the very popular regulated influencer would be Josh, right? Josh Tan, right? Astute parent. If you think about it, he has gone through the test of the public, you know. Right? Because he does everything, you know, in the camera, he tells you, he evaluate everything. So actually, technically, that influencer is probably better than, you know, the non-influencer regulated agent. Hey, welcome to the Financial Coconut Podcast Network. I'm your host, Reggie, aka your Chief Financial Coconut. And if you're loving what we're creating here, like, share, subscribe, share with your loved ones, comment in the comment section below. And yeah, we'll see you for great content on Chills with TFC.
That was what I was going to say, because in your brief, right, I think you asked whether influencers should be held to the same standard as FAs, right? In fact, I think it's the other way around. I think
FA should be held the same as influencer.
really, because having been in both, right, I feel like when you give advice as a FA to your clients, right, it's so insulated from everything, right? You can give the worst advice, get them to buy the highest commission product. Nobody will know, right? But when you're, as a influencer, you're on YouTube or on your website, you are telling the whole world this is your stance, you know, on certain kind of product. And it's open to scrutiny. And, you know, okay, for me, I don't even delete comments. Yeah, so I think it's the other way around.
Very loaded, that line very loaded. For me, I don't even delete comments.
I think, okay, even if I delete comments, right, you can set up Reddit threads, you can talk about this person.
It
his
floats to
advice
everywhere.
is not,
Yes.
Right, but there's no such scrutiny on FAs. So it's the other way around. Instead of the whole talk about whether or not influencers should be regulated, I think the question should be, you know, we have all these FAs, all these regulations, right? And yet, people are still not prepared for retirement. People are still underinsured. Year on year, they keep releasing these kind of studies. And then in my mind, it's like, what are these agencies doing? What are these financial advisors doing? Have they led to better outcomes in Singapore, you know, the Singapore landscape? I don't think so.
So satisfied have influencers led to better outcomes
I
in
believe
Singapore?
so, definitely. I believe that influencers have
Actually,
have
I
led,
can share his position. But yes, you say.
yeah, have led to greater awareness, right? Especially engage people who are not that into it in the first place.
I got two things to add on that, right? So first is in the past, before I became who I am, you know, I was very annoyed with all this like advice, you know, all these gurus, like what kind of rubbish you thought. The ideas don't even stand to logic scrutiny, right? So it's very rubbish. That's why I created a platform and it grew to where it is. But as I grow the platform to where it is, then I start to interact with the more up there one, right? Yeah, you know, the people actually behind the product, the people actually thinking about how to structure these things. So the issuers, the product specialists, you know, the people at the core of this thing, right? They're actually damn smart, right? And they know what they're doing. They know why they create this product. They've studied the audience, studied their target audience, why they want this, and then why they structure it this way, such that it's viable at the business level and the product makes sense. But once it pushes down the sales channel, right? Wow, this one become more already. I don't know how it ends up. To the end, it gets repackaged. They get all sorts of weird things, you know. So it is something that is a very interesting phenomenon. You know, that I'm not sure it should be regulated or how it could be better regulated, but it's a phenomenon.
And on Seth's point about that FA should be held to the same standards as influencers, but there are some influencers who have been held to this scrutiny and could not take it because what they preach or shared was not quite correct or had a lot more gaps and loopholes that they themselves may not have been aware of, and they have disappeared. They have completely gone silent. We know who lah. Whether the audience, you all know who is.
Who I don't know.
You know. In our group chat, we got say, come and text you now. You got both you say on the show.
Wow, you challenge me.
And on the other hand, you also have some influencers. I mean, when a company or a stock or a crypto, whatever, doesn't do well, sometimes it is black swan events. Sometimes it is the management from good become bad. People can change overnight, right? Or maybe the businesses like did not do well because of certain issues like SIA suddenly have COVID and that kind of stuff. So it doesn't mean that just because something was good before, it will forever be good. But because influencers are out there, they get help. The video that they posted 3 years ago still gets comment even up till now. And some of them cannot take it. Right? They just completely disappear because you have too many negatives. The audience remembers, right? Then very hard for you to what's that? 江山再起 ah? Is that the term?
东山再起。
东山再起.
I'm very glad you're trying to improve your Mandarin. yes.
Yeah, but on the other hand, you have influencers. Yes, everyone's human. A lot of people make mistakes. And some of the mistakes made by some influencers or influencers is not isolated. Like a lot of people made the mistake. FTX, for example, even Temasek made the mistake, right? And it's like, but these people who actually know the difference between what is their fault versus uncontrollable factors, etc., they don't disappear overnight. The market never disappear because of one failed investment, right? And some influencers, yes, some stocks, some crypto failed, but they don't disappear. They're still there for you to still hold them accountable. While the names that I sent to Seth in the group chat have disappeared. No one knows what they're doing anymore.
I suddenly feel very scared airing this episode.
Actually, but I just said watch just everything one. It's just whether I want to say
There's
only.
a lot of juice.
Let's talk about the lifestyle people.
Oh, yeah,
Remember when
yeah.
crypto was going up and lifestyle folks were jumping on, creating their own coins, selling their own projects and NFTs, and some I called out on my channel, then I block out the name. So if you know, then you know. You don't know, then you bad. Right?
You can gossip about your sex stories. You can talk about your relationship. You can bring minister on the show. That's up to you. But don't come into our corner.
Yes.
Right? Because you are
Because
not
we will
qualified.
call
You have
you
no
out.
capability to stay in the corner. If I took your ad and cut it out and whack you, you would have died.
So
No,
it
I
does
mean,
mean that influencers should be regulated, but it's under a different framework.
Probably.
At least
Yeah,
have a
different
minimal
framework.
barrier to entry, right?
My point of view is I'm okay to be regulated, If the organization believes, or if government today believes that there's a need for regulation, then engage us, right? Then we can talk about, okay, what's the parameter? And then eventually some people will choose to get regulated. Some people will then choose to stay away from the corners that are regulated.
And it needs to be appropriate
Right?
also.
And it needs to be appropriate such that it serves the function. Ultimately, it's not regulation for regulation. Ultimately, I think we are all aligned to try to, push this improvement in personal finance for, or at least I do believe that, okay, the people that stay on definitely are able to make a living out of it. Okay, this is fair statement. If you cannot make a living, it's a passion project, you will never survive the industry, right? As with any other industry. But from the multiple people that I've connected through these few years in personal finance, I do think a lot of people genuinely care about the personal finance, right? And they don't come from I just copy paste this script, then I tell you what to do, at least the people that come on the show, right? They genuinely have harnessed that idea, they studied it and they, digest it and they take a position on that. Right, so I cannot vouch for everyone, but across the board, if you see them regularly on the show, they are of a decent quality.
Even wondering whether or not the degree of compensation should be disclosed, right? Because, okay, I do a lot of credit card content, right? There are some cards that just give you a lot more compensation than other cards.
Yeah.
Right, and that can skew your recommendations. And for something as trivial as a credit card, right, it can already have some impact on financial health of people. And if you look at things like that, like investment insurance, that can lead to even more, conflict of interest between the influencer and the person.
For sure, yeah.
So that's one thing I think I can think of, right? Disclosures, to at least people are aware, right? I know that you're being paid to say this, but then again, what's the degree of compensation? I think that might be important.
It shouldn't be just influencers, and it should be advertising in general.
Yeah. So I think that's where he's
true.
coming from. He said that, okay, let's say they want to regulate us, then we might update the advertising laws across the board, right? And to be fair, right, given that there's no regulation in this space at this point in time, we have all kind of chosen our path, right? This is like a tussle, and I think audience are not idiots, right? Or at least the people that stay in the personal finance content sphere long enough, they're not idiots. Right? It's sometimes when the message gets cropped out and pushed out, in a very narrow fashion, right, that it can get misconstrued. Yeah. So that's my point of view. So how you want to get regulated now?
No, I think if the regulators want to regulate us, we would definitely welcome the feedback and really kopi with them, right? To
Election
discuss
coming out, we can lim one. You
to
can come on the
discuss
show, we can
how
lim with you.
how to do it in a way that makes sense for everyone involved without also jeopardizing too much of what is at stake, right? Because sometimes when you over-regulate, then the industry doesn't, it's too tight.
Yeah.
Then there's no growth, there's no creativity, etc. So we need to figure that out. But at the same time, I think we also need to be very wary about simply putting a blanket statement and saying influencers only should be regulated because the truth is finance ad budgets don't always come to influencers. In fact, I have friends who work in finance, right? Sometimes I ask like, hey, you know me, you know my blog, I give you a discount lah. Why you gonna engage that other KOL? Don't want to engage me? I know I can do better leh. And
No,
then
they do it on purpose, right?
no, because to them it's very simple. They want the awareness, right? And then the influencers sometimes because we go so in depth and we reject their scripts, we very anal about what can be said and what cannot say. But sometimes when they work with lifestyle influencers, it's really just easier.
Yeah.
They don't
I mean,
get as
even
much
the audience that we
corrections.
attract, right? We tend to
Yeah.
attract more savvy
Savvy,
audience, right?
yeah.
Who can tell whether or not a particular product is good or bad.
Yeah.
Right, whereas lifestyle influencers, I mean, they are more casual lah. So whether or not they know a product is good
Wow,
or not.
you 真的老奸巨猾 leh. You know,
They tell you,
you're not the
no
only,
mouse.
you're not the only biggest blog, right? Oh, they're more casual.
They're more casual, I mean,
it's like what?
Personal finance is not everybody's interest,
I
right?
love that
So
reply. I will learn.
if I
They're
want to
casual.
sell a subpar credit card, again, okay, my domain lah, right? A subpar credit card. Is it easier to sell it through Satisfy or is it easier to sell it through XYZ lifestyle influencer? Okay, yeah. I think it's also easier to sell it via that channel.
Exactly.
It's true. I agree.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think that influencers make a lot of money. It's not. It's
No lah.
really not.
I try to
Honestly,
keep the lights on. Like, share, subscribe. Thank you.
and
Important
by the way,
lah, like, share,
Instagram,
subscribe.
TikTok,
Okay,
YouTube,
yes,
and whatever.
yes,
But
yes,
anyway,
yes.
yes, like we really don't make as much as many other KOLs did. And in fact, if you really want to make money, then don't come into the personal finance space because you only work with a very small pool of advertisers and your audience hold you to very high standards,
Very
higher than the average KOL. And it's going to be really difficult lah. And then you get all these, talk about regulations and back and forth. It's just easier to go and be a food KOL, a beauty makeup KOL, a travel KOL because you get bigger audiences. You can very easily hit like 6-digit following. But how many people care enough about personal finance to hit?
But I just want to caveat a bit. It's not very easy to be other influencer also. Okay,
Of course,
I've seen
every niche got their own
has its own
difficulties lah.
Yes.
But I think a lot of people over romanticize influencers and they think we make a lot of money. We don't.
But you do lah.
Okay, my opinion is that I think influencers, we are actually more self-regulated.
Yes.
Right? I have not seen a single influencer that has recommended a non-MAS approved trading app,
Of course.
right? In
Of
fact,
course.
trading apps that are on the investor alert list.
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen a single influencer do it.
Yeah.
But I've seen plenty of lifestyle influencers promoting certain apps that I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole.
And I know how much they're being paid, 5 digits.
Wow.
Okay, maybe I wouldn't touch with a 5-foot pole.
I unrepresented 5 digits who
5
don't
digits.
want, right? But I also
Wow.
choose not to touch.
Which
Okay.
Later I tell you
Oh,
all.
I mean, there are trading apps that are not MAS.
I know. I've
regulated.
seen those.
Yeah,
I've seen
yeah.
those.
I think we get the emails every other day,
Yeah,
right? They're very
always.
persistent.
Yeah.
All sorts of
And,
stuff. All this
yeah.
random agency from don't know where, they will represent all these people and just push it through. So yeah.
And on top of that, when to add on a Seth point about influencers being self-regulated, we also very open to calling each other out.
Really, man?
Yeah, in our own circle. I mean, because we know each other, we try to personal
very
message
nice
first
one.
lah. Yeah, but we will call each other out about it. What I mean, Seth has sent me some stuff. I have sent him some stuff in our circle. We got discussed. And we all make each other better for it because we actually know enough about the product or the service to identify when someone is not really saying it right. But then we don't really get that kind with non-finance influencers.
It's true. No,
Yeah.
I mean, let me just add on that, right? So we receive all sorts of briefs. So when the brief come in, usually the agency is very normal, right? Okay, so when I say normal, it means most agencies are not specialized in managing finance brands or finance products because if they just do that one, they hardly able to survive, right? So more often than not, they take a spread of products with advertisers and all that. Then finance become the once a while they have one anchor client for a few years, then you'll keep interacting with them, then after a while they will move on, right? So actually most agency people, they are not very savvy, with finance products. So when they come in with the brief, right, they got all sorts of bold things, right, which I think is a lame one. It's nothing to bold. This is not special, right? Then I will try very hard to tell them this is unique, right? So like in our industry, we kind of regulate ourselves in that sense, right? But it's so common. Just wanted to add that. Yeah. What do you think? 你很 quiet, like very
Dave, you're so
friendly today.
quiet.
I got a lot of thoughts.
Is that
but then
okay?
Yeah, so from my point of view, I think there's this personal finance ecosystem. We just look at it as a whole, right? Where it consists of Finfluencer. I would kind of like Finfluencer, but then I don't really disclose a lot of details on the finance. But then there are also IFA, FA, and then banking, all this, right? Yeah, I enjoy watching both your show, by the way. So I think it's a very fun way to learn personal finance. And I think that Finfluencer that definitely have a space in this whole ecosystem. Just now, I think, Seth, you mentioned about disclosure, transparency. I think that part is the most important. Once you have that part covered, or any disclaimer covered, right? Actually, we can coexist. Maybe a different framework, because I think banking and IFA probably will be tighter, that kind of thing. But Finfluencer is an ecosystem within a bigger ecosystem, basically. Yeah. So I think the contribution, right, like just now Seth say, the contribution for Finfluencer actually, it does bring up the personal finance knowledge of everyone, up level by a lot. And they can actually listen to, of course, here are the better Finfluencer lah.
So I want to push the conversation towards the whole like lifestyle influencer or finance advertisers in themselves. Should their money of where it goes, should that be regulated, right? In that sense, right? So it's two parts, right? One is finance brands get to advertise wherever they want, right? So are they then subjected to regulation or advertising standards or certain parameters or certain things that can say, cannot say, or like, but and these advertising standards, they keep changing on over time. It gets evolved, right? So like EIR, these sort of things. Last time don't have, it's just an interest rate, then no compound value. So people just think that's a simple interest, but actually it adds up quite intensive. So all these advertising standards gets very granular and they do change over time, right? So I want to open the floor to see what you think of that. And what about any more shit on lifestyle influencers? Anything? I feel like you got a lot of things.
They probably got a lot of comments.
Got a lot of things. Lifestyle influencer, why?
No, I think it goes back to the regulation part again, right? So I believe that influencers, possibly we could have some regulation before you can talk about financial products. Yeah. So if lifestyle influencers want to talk about it, perhaps they should also then go through.
Actually,
it's for exam. You must pass exam, then you can talk about
actually,
financial
that's better
product.
for us, right? That means
there's a barrier to entry.
The assumption is we know better, right, than them lah. But yes, a lot of people get famous, or a lot of influencers get famous because of the type of content that they do, which resonates much easier, right? Things like crime, like horror, but those two genres are very hard to monetize because advertisers don't want to be associated with that, right? So then the second, third one, relationship, all those, so those things are very easy to, get traction. And I'm sure advertisers are also not idiots, right? So they will want to capture that, right? So if we regulate the overall space to say that, okay, if you want to talk about finance-related products, then you have to take an exam or take a test or something simple, or have some sort of disclosure standards, then okay lah, right? But to be fair, it actually doesn't affect, other than it potentially shrinks the pool that advertisers can spend on, that helps us, it actually doesn't affect our audience. Our audience are self-select. It's not that they don't watch makan shows or makeup shows. They do, but they go there for that. They come to us for another thing, right? So it doesn't affect our audience, but I think for the sake of the nation, right? Since this was a national topic, right? For the sake of the nation, this could help lah, right? Overall.
We are pulling out Uno reverse card. Using regulation to help us now.
Right. So for the sake of the nation, we regulate. I'm not scared, right? Your exam cannot be difficult one. Right? I know. I look at all the exams. I know.
Exams are not difficult.
Yeah, it's not difficult.
Exactly.
You want to take, right? We can talk one. That's why we are here.
I strongly believe why my audience follow me, because out of a lot of the finance folks out there, I've seen some and I really respect them. But if you really peel back the layers, some are those who made it already. Then they start to manage their finance. Yes, you can still learn from them. But your journey, if you're trying to grow, you want to find someone who has also been on that. Like you want to find someone who's an employee, who has been able, who also deals with like friends who want to spend a lot of money. How can you say no to expensive friends? Deal with parents who want you to give a lot of allowance. How do you deal with managing your parents and all that? You want to learn from their experience so that you can also find things that are similar and applicable in your life, and you get to that goal with them. You're not going to learn this lesson from like a trust fund kid or someone who got famous because, they're in fashion, they're in some other niche and they made a lot of money. Like imagine Mr. Beast made a lot of money as well. He could very well tomorrow start selling finance courses. Right? I am a $1 billion guy. You should learn from me how to invest your money. I'm sure there'll be people who buy it. But is that going to be really value add for those who do not have 1 billion, right? So if you regulate the space until you can't even let the everyday people who want to build and say, come along on this journey. And if you don't like my journey, then you auto-select and stop following me, right? Then the space I really feel will suffer.
I can see the comment section, all the influencer come in. He's like, thumbs up, thumbs up,
Okay,
thumbs
but I
up.
want to raise one last question before we close off.
Yes.
There are a lot
Is
of
your
people.
show or my show?
Your show. Why? I asked for permission.
Okay.
So like earlier on, you were also talking about opinions and all and
Yes,
how
correct.
it differs, right? So if let's say we all today have an opinion on maybe say Tesla stock. Okay? And if you tell your friend who's also your client that you're pro-Tesla because you believe in EVs, is that advice? But it's coming from a regulated person. Is that advice? Does that need to be regulated? The lines are so blurry.
I think from IFA, I manage investment for my clients, right? There's always a so-called documentation to fall back on, as in what is the investment objective in the first place, time horizon, all this stuff, right? So everything will fall back when I make an investment judgment or opinion, right? It got to be in line with what we discussed initially.
Okay.
So if it's not in line, right, then that should be sorted out, basically.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
question if your client then comes to you and say, hey Dave, my kuchang, Ima, all talking, the
Why
taxi
your
driver,
family a lot of things to say? So your
all
mother,
say
Then they-
Tesla, or I follow this YouTuber
Yeah,
say
yeah.
Tesla stock very
Yeah.
good. Should I buy?
Then they can buy on their own, but
Right.
not under my
Correct.
advice.
So if
Yeah,
you
correct.
tell
Yeah.
them that I also think Tesla is a good
Yeah,
stock, I
yeah.
personally also buy.
Yeah.
Is that considered advice? Technically not, right? Because
Yeah,
they
it's not.
press the button themselves.
Yeah.
But this is where it's so grey because some people will say, no, it's from a regulated person. So it's advice, but it's an opinion. What?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so to end off the episode, start the year well, so
Yeah, a lot of grey
yeah,
areas.
yeah.
We open the grey areas in
Okay,
2025.
可以了 brand image
closing,
important. Okay, brand image
Do I
important.
get closing statements?
Yes. I was about to give you a
Okay,
closing
okay.
statement. You got any other thing
I
you want to
think
say?
the most important, be it whether you're listening to a Finfluencer, FA, doctor, lawyer, whoever that's giving you
Whoever,
advice,
yeah.
right? It's really you have to do your own due diligence, right? So if you listen blindly to one person, right? Be it anyone that I just mentioned, it could be a doctor that's just not that ethical. He can give you very lousy advice, right? So I think you can do your own due diligence, go and research, go and ask multiple opinions before you commit to anything major. Yeah. So Finfluencers, I'm not the only one. Budget Bait is not the only big blog out there, right? So just go and get wider opinions about something regardless whether it's financial advice or even things like medical advice.
Yeah. Once again, I still think our audience are self-select, right? It is the broader nation that I'm concerned about, right? So if we want to regulate, 我们一起 regulate. Okay, so that's it for today. We'll see you at the next week. Meanwhile, Happy New Year. Bye-bye.